Hey guys, what's going on? This is Roth, and I am so excited, and you should be excited too, because I am here with Brad Bird and Damon Lindelof, who are the director, co-writers, producers, mothers
Windows.
of, conceivers of Tomorrowland, which you've been hearing about for some time. A lot of mystery around this one, which makes it interesting to talk about. But I remember at D23, I think a year ago, you guys revealed the, apparently there's just magic, there's feather dust happening.
Yes.
You talk about
Gnats.
Disney and feather dust happens. The 1952 box, right? Which we all made a big to-do about, like, well, what does it mean? What does that object mean? And it sort of got deconstructed and analyzed. But in looking at it, now that I've seen the film, it just seemed thematically about the idea of being optimistic about the future.
Sure.
So is that sort of what it was for you guys?
Well, I think that one of the challenges for a movie like this, particularly even though the word Tomorrowland is sort of familiar for people who have been to the parks, you hear it and you go, okay, but what is that movie about?
Yeah.
And there was a point, certainly back at D23, where we didn't have anything to show yet. In fact, I don't even think that we were in production, and you have to start saying, well, you know, this is the basis, this is the foundation. We had to start with something, and the box was the something that we started with. And I think it was just loaded full of ideas that we wanted to infuse the movie with. There was a big focus in the box on the 1964 World's Fair, which we knew was going to be a big set piece in the movie. The idea that perhaps the structure had been built beneath the It's a Small World attraction in the 64 World's Fair. The idea of Plus Ultra, a secret society of geniuses who are trying to make the world a better place. That was, you can't just talk about these things in the abstract. You need to talk to them as if they're related to something in the physical world, and the box became our way of doing that.
Right.
This it's funny because there is this real sense of nostalgia for me as not of an era that I was alive in, actually, but there's a feeling.
Now I just feel old. First you talk about 90s complaint rock, and now you drop the
90s
nostalgia
complaint
bomb on us.
I remember 90s complaint rock, that I own.
Yeah.
But it's also thematically about something very, very topical. So I was kind of curious in the conception of it, which was a bigger draw for you guys? Were you more interested in sort of tapping into this idea that's very relevant today that we won't necessarily talk about here?
Well, I think that we were kind of driven by the idea of, what happened to the way that we imagine the future. And when we were kids, the future had been, like it had been for our parents, always brighter than the present. Mm-hmm. And we all thought we're going to have jetpacks and hunger will be solved and overpopulation will be solved and the pollution aspects will be solved, war will be gone, it's going to be a great place. And somewhere along the line that went away, and we were kind of looking at each other going, why did it go away? It wasn't that things were perfect back then. There were wars, the Cold War was happening, there were assassinations. It wasn't like the earth was a perfect place, but something happened to thinking of the future as better than today. And the question we were driven by is what changed and why? And could we make kind of a sci-fi fable around that idea? Where did it go?
It does touch on this idea of the pervading sense of negativity and pessimism. We see it all the time in all the post-apocalyptic, if I can speak, shows and movies. It's a doozy.
The sound of it is something quite atrocious. Yeah.
That's kind of an amazing riff right there. I'm cutting that out.
You're going to have
I'm
to write a
sending
check
it
for
viral.
saying that.
I'm going to make that go viral.
Yeah. You're just going to be beeped the entire time you're saying that. You're like,
but
what torrent of profanity did Bird unleash? He was just singing supercalifragilistic, people. That's it. We don't own it, though. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna wind us back to a point, which is going to sound a little off topic, but I swear it's related. So Joss Whedon just left Twitter. You left Twitter because of all sort of the noise and the negativity. Do you think that there is something to the idea? Because, let's face it, Back to the Future, there was still an optimistic feeling about the future. There was the hoverboards. Social media sort of giving a microphone to the cynicism and pessimism.
Well, it's a microphone, and it's powerful. So, but it can be used to do positive things as well as negative things. I mean, the stuff that's happening with Ferguson, everybody acts incredibly surprised by it, or at least a certain segment of society does. But for another segment of society, it's like the little portable devices have just exposed what they knew was there all along, and it's kind of making everyone aware that it's there, and it's great because we're now trying to do something about it, and it's part of the discussion. So that's the positive aspect of it. But there's also the aspect where people can come in and give you a sucker punch and then retreat into the shadows anonymously. And so I think it's a neutral. All of technological advance is a neutral thing that can be used either positively or negatively.
Yeah, and I think that I obviously can't speak for Joss, but as a huge fan of his, and Joss really coming onto my radar and me wanting to model myself after him as a fanboy before I was even doing this. Part of it was the way that he engaged with and interacted with the fans. And we all understand that there is this part of being a fan of anything where I'm a huge New York Jets fan, and that I reserve the right to boo when they blow it. But they're the team that I follow. For me, the reason that I left Twitter is myriad. A big part of it was just how time-consuming it was, and I know that Joss probably felt the same way. But the real part of it wasn't my inability to take criticism as much as it was that it actually brought out the worst in me. Mm-hmm. It made me want to be mean, because I think that when you live in a world of favorites and retweets, and you realize if I say something mean about something, it's gonna,
bam,
it's huge. And if I say something nice, nobody cares. And so when you feel that power, it actually starts to kind of, it starts to cultivate this idea of like, hey, I can say something nasty about something that I don't like, and it'll go insane. For example, Joss just made a comment about a 2-minute clip from Jurassic World, taken completely out of context, and it just became a huge thing. And the guy's tweeting left and right about all the things that he loves, that it gets no play whatsoever.
Yeah.
But that's oddly thematic, because I think that that kind of mirrors what's happened with technology, where 100 years ago, if some guy flipped out and killed his family in Peru, you never knew about it. But now, everyone on the planet knows about it before the bodies are cold. And
we're talking about a Disney movie.
Yeah, come see it, kids.
So we've covered Ferguson. we were in the press junket the other day, and George was talking about Darfur, and I was like, we're talking about Darfur.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right.
Hashtag Darfur. Come see Tomorrowland, May 22nd. Hashtag Ferguson.
Yeah.
No.
There is a tendency to make this movie sound like it's vitamin D or something, like it's good for you, and that's doing it a tremendous disservice, because it first and foremost, it's just trying to be a good time at the movies and kind of forget where you are now and be taken on a journey.
Yeah, I think it's got a ton of whimsy. I think it's great for kids. I'm doing your pitch for you. Look at that.
But I think that's the thing that people want to talk about, is this other idea of what happened, why.
Yeah, I mean, and those are things we're going to talk a little bit more specifically post-release for a spoiler cast, that we'll dig into some of those themes a little more specifically there. I did kind of want to ask you, when you're thinking about a movie that has this much, marketing a movie that has this much mystery around it, have you learned lessons sort of from Lost, even from the Khan reveal in Star Trek, about the balance between keeping a secret and overselling a reveal? Right.
Well, that's a very insightful question, and the answer is it's a work in progress. I do think and I know that Brad agrees, and certainly JJ does as well, which is, above all, you want to preserve this feeling of, as Brad puts it, sort of keeping the gift wrapped until it's ready to be unwrapped. You don't just hand somebody something and say, "Merry Christmas." You wrap it and put it under the tree for a reason. That's part of the presentation.
You don't hand them a wrapped present and say, "Here it is, it's a bike." Right. And it's like, and,
you got to mime a slightly larger present if you're going to do that. Yeah.
It's a bike, but it could be anything of large size,
right, exactly.
But it's a bike.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that there's a tendency in marketing specifically because films are expensive, and you want the studio to make its money back, and you want people to see the movie, but there's a tendency to go, and you'll be getting this hairdryer, and won't that be cool? And it's like, yeah, I want to get these gifts, but then the day arrives and everything you're going to get. It's kind of like, oh yeah, it's the thing you told me about.
And then I also think that, as it regards this movie, we want certain twists and turns to be kept secret so that the audience can enjoy them. But I'm slightly sort of feeling like people say, like, well, what's the movie about? Why are you being so secretive? And it's like, no, we're telling you exactly what the movie is about. This young woman, she touches a pin, she sees a place, she doesn't understand what it is or who built it, and then she needs
the pen stops working.
Yeah, and then she needs George Clooney to help her find the place. That's the movie. Like, we're not hiding anything else. Oh, Benedict Cumberbatch is in it too. But other than that, and he is playing Khan.
He is playing Khan. It gets really weird.
Right. That
but
was
Khan
a mistake.
as a building, which is really cool. He's a small, dark part of Tomorrowland. Yeah.
In performance capture.
Yeah.
It's kind of, and then he's a dragon.
I knew you were going to get dragons in there somehow.
Dragons were going to get in there somehow. I do have to ask, we are big Incredibles 2 fans around here, so curious if with all of the...
Well, you're already a fan of Incredibles 2. It hasn't even been made
For me, the
yet.
jury's out.
That's how good you are.
Right,
That is how good you are.
I like The Incredibles 3.
I'm so ahead
And
of
it's
myself.
not nearly as good as Incredibles 5.
Yeah.
There was a little dip in 4, but that's when you stepped out to do the other movie.
That's right. 4 is the one when Vin Diesel comes back, right? Yeah. That's good.
So, we like The Incredibles, and we're looking forward to The Incredibles 2. With the sort of uptick in superhero movies, they're the most dominant form of movies in cinema right now.
It's well-trodden turf.
Well-trodden turf. So does it become actually more difficult to do the same kind of redux that you did on the first one, or is there just so much more fodder?
I think that a lot of superhero movies have been made since Incredibles. And it's kind of like an athletic field that's just kind of dried up dirt now, and maybe a few clumps of grass. And I think that the challenge is, how do you do something that steps outside of that and says, wait, there's another place for our heroes to go. And so that's kind of the challenge, is trying to. I mean, people make a lot about following some kind of roadmap, and Damon and I can tell you from doing this film that you're just bumping into furniture. You hopefully, if you're on the right path, you don't actually know where you're going completely. And I love those characters in Incredibles, but I also am a movie goer, and I want to be surprised by movies and have them zig when they should be zagging, and that's the goal with that one, as it was for this one. And that's what attracted me to Tomorrowland when Damon first talked to me about it, is that I didn't know where the story was going to go next.
But is Spider-Man going to be in The Incredibles 2?
But that's the question. Can you tell us now that there's synergy?
We actually, one of the biggest laughs that we ever had was one of those goofy things that you start talking about it and you start to say, should we do that? And we were saying,
it was your pitch.
My pitch was that there was going to be a post-credits scene in Tomorrowland, and at the very end of the movie, if you watch the credits, there's a pin and you see someone picking it up, and the reveal would be that it was Sam Jackson, and he's wearing an eye patch and he's holding a lightsaber, and he looks sort of befuddled, maybe a Frozone uniform, and he just goes, "I'm in this one too," and then bam, cut to black, just to get all the cross pollination.
Everybody loves Sam, so that's going to be an uptick at the box office.
Absolutely, just lock it in. We're just like, we don't want to say how, but this does lock into both the Star Wars and the Marvel universe. And is a setup for Incredibles.
Yeah. And we're not saying that's not in there.
We can't rule it out.
That post-credit scene might be in there. We don't know.
Yeah.
Are you going to stick with the original characters for Incredibles 2?
I don't like to talk about anything. There's no upside for me.
All secrets.
No
all
unwrapping.
The time. Unwrapping. The unwrapping of the present.
Yes.
You can unwrap Tomorrowland on May 22nd, and you should. And then come back here, because we're going to talk about all of the secret, not so secret reveals in the presents, and you can join us for that. May 22nd.
May 22nd.
Darfur.